fighting in the war for independence. They had a problem with their commanding officer. So 1776, our country was founded. 1777, just a few months after the Declaration of Independence, a group of sailors and Marines on a ship fighting in the War for Independence, they had a problem with their commanding officer. They served on a frigate called the USS Warren under the command of this guy, Essex Hopkins. And apparently he was not awesome. He was so bad, the men serving under him on that frigate sent a petition to the Continental Congress laying out their grievances with their commanding officer. And it is hard to read 18th century sailor penmanship. But in their petition, they said that this guy had done everything from swearing to torturing people. The sailor serving under his command wrote to the Continental Congress to say that Essex Hopkins was unfit to lead them and they wanted him removed. This was a huge risk for them because their commander was not just any old guy. He was kind of the guy. Essex Hopkins was the first commander-in-chief of the Continental Navy. Nevertheless, there was an investigation into his behavior. The Continental Congress did vote to remove Hopkins from his command. Hopkins then retaliated, filed a retaliatory lawsuit that put two of the men who had raised the alarm about him in jail. And the Continental Congress realized the sort of pickle they were in here. And they decided they would essentially come to the rescue of those men who were jailed after raising the alarm about this commander. They authorized payment for those sailors' legal defense. They helped provide the evidence that those sailors needed to get acquitted and get out of jail. In so doing, the Continental Congress put together what is now believed to be the first whistleblower protection legislation. In July of 1778, it read in part, quote, "It is the duty of all persons in the service of the United States, as well as all other the inhabitants thereof, to give..."
It is the duty of all persons, not just in the service pertaining to the military, but under the Good Samaritan law, in being a good citizen, it is our civil duties to report anything that is suspicious, that does not look right, that is out of sync or out of kilter. To this day, I still have yet to get any type of acknowledgement out of the Texas authorities pertaining to the Waco incident, or pertaining to the Oklahoma authorities pertaining to the Oklahoma event, or pertaining to the Kentucky authorities pertaining to the Kentucky event, or the Tennessee authorities pertaining to the Tennessee event. I have yet to get any type of formal or informal apology or acknowledgement that they was in the wrong towards intervening simply because I had found out the truth about various matters or various people, and I was exposing it to the general public, and because of it, I was shunned, I was demonized, I was dehumanized, I was targeted, I was basically treated like if I was an enemy of the state. And the whole time, I was only trying to fulfill my civil duties as well as the guidelines under the Good Samaritan laws pertaining to not only what the Bible teaches, but what our laws teach us. And because of it, I was punished and treated worse than a red-haired stepchild right here in the good old USA. Once more, this is the first people that was embarking upon seeing something that they didn't approve of, that they knew that was totally out of context whenever it come to an officer that was just ratting and raving. He was out of his freaking mind and used torture tactics against his rivals. Please listen.
the earliest information to Congress or other proper authority of any misconduct, frauds, or misdemeanors committed by any officers or persons in the service of these states, which may come to their knowledge. The concept
which may come to their knowledge. Let's back up one more time. Let's be sure we get all this. Hang
for
on.
raising the alarm about this commander. They authorized payment for those sailors' legal defense. They helped provide the evidence that those sailors needed to get acquitted and get out of jail.
They was helping them because they realized, hey, this isn't right.
In so doing, the Continental Congress put together what is now believed to be the first whistleblower protection legislation.
Whistleblower protection legislation. A law that protects someone who is unraveling or exposing the truth about something that just didn't quite hee-haw.
In July of 1778, it read in part, quote, "It is the duty of all persons in the service of the United States, as well as all other the inhabitants thereof, to give the earliest information to Congress or other proper authority of any misconduct, frauds, or misdemeanors committed by any officers or persons in the service of these states, which may come to their knowledge." The concept of protecting whistleblowers who are alerting the proper authorities about misconduct by those who hold a position of honor in the United States, that concept is almost exactly as old as America. And now 241 years into it, it's getting a little bumpy. More on that next. Stay with us.
The holidays are here. Find meaningful.
It's not just getting a little bumpy. For people like myself, it's gotten a whole lot bumpy. People like Eric Snowden, it's gotten a whole lot bumpy. People like the whistleblower that brought attention to the Ukraine event, it's gotten even more so bumpier. What it amounts to is people being punished for doing the right thing. That's what it amounts to. And whenever we as a society, a free, open, fair democracy society over here in America, gets to the point that we're punishing people for doing the right thing, that's whenever great punishment will come from the Creator towards punishing the people that are punishing the people that are trying to do the right things. That's where we're at, folks. That's where we're at on the anniversary of Pearl Harbor being attacked, December the 7th, 2019. That's exactly where we're at in society over here in America. So sad.
Gladiator.
Start acting. This summer, in August, the head of the Ways and Means Committee in the House.
Hang on, I think she said something. I may have missed it.
Stop imagining.
Right there.
4 days.
The head of the Ways and Means Committee in the House, Richie Neal, Democratic congressman from Massachusetts, unleashed a sort of confetti cannon of legal filings in his push to try to get to see President Trump's tax returns. Under federal law, if you're the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, you're entitled to see anybody's tax returns, including the president's. Well, in that mountain of paper that was filed with the courts in this fight over whether or not Richie Neal is allowed to see President Trump's tax returns, as it says under law he can, there was one exhibit filed, Exhibit Q-Q, that has turned into an enduring source of news and mystery. That exhibit QQ says this, quote, "On July 29th, 2019, the committee, the Ways and Means Committee, received an unsolicited is underlined, an unsolicited communication from a federal employee setting forth credible allegations of evidence of possible misconduct, specifically potential inappropriate efforts to influence the mandatory audit program of a president's income tax returns." Chairman Neal said this new information from the whistleblower that came forward to his committee raised, quote, serious and urgent concerns. This is not about the whistleblower with the whole Ukraine thing that led to the president being impeached. This is a different whistleblower, whole different concept, whole different story. And in plain English, what the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee is saying here is that a whistleblower came forward to the committee without the committee asking for it. It was unsolicited. Whistleblower came forward from inside the government with evidence of possible misconduct related to President Trump's tax returns being audited by the IRS. Potential misconduct around that. Oh, really? According to the Washington Post, the whistleblower's key allegation was that, quote, at least one Treasury Department political appointee attempted to improperly interfere with the audit of the president's or vice president's tax returns. The Ways and Means Committee confirmed to us that their staff has interviewed the whistleblower. Last month, we learned that staff from the Senate Finance Committee interviewed the whistleblower, too. So this whistleblower complaint is sort of bopping along these two separate parallel tracks, with the Finance Committee in the Senate and with the Ways and Means Committee in the House. But we just got a super troubling follow-up from CNN as we've been trying to follow the story, wondering when we're all going to learn what this is and what's going to become of this whistleblower's claims. CNN recently reported a few days ago that after the whistleblower spoke with staff from the Finance Committee in the Senate, the whistleblower is now, quote, declining to voluntarily appear for a transcribed interview with the Senate Finance Committee. Why is that? The whistleblower made this decision, quote, after an official informed the whistleblower that it could be considered a violation of law, a violation of the IRS code, to provide the committee with any information related to an individual taxpayer. Somebody told the whistleblower, hey, you know, if what you're planning on telling the committee is something about one taxpayer's tax return, that's illegal, you can go to jail. Somebody may have advised the whistleblower of that, but that's not exactly true. It's not supposed to be true. There are special protections for whistleblowers under the IRS code. Whistleblowers are allowed to come forward to the committees and give information to these committees under the cloak of whistleblower protections.
Right.
Now, I mean, one remedy here would be to have the head of the Finance Committee in the Senate, Republican Senator Chuck Grassley, issue a subpoena rather than just telling the whistleblower it's a voluntary interview.
And one may be asking, well, why is that? How come someone can bring forth substantial proof in regard to a crime that's been committed? Once more, that's part of our checks and balances here in America towards keeping everybody honest. It's kind of like putting a lock on something, and if a person really and truly wants to break in there, it don't matter if you got one lock or 1,000 locks, they're still going to get in there. But in essence, what it does do, it helps to keep an honest person honest. And that's exactly the whole concept in allowing for these whistleblowers to be protected, providing that their information is credible. It's got to be credible. You can't just make up stuff. But providing that their information is credible, the United States government is supposed to protect these people because it helps to keep our society in checks and balances. And it doesn't matter if you're whistleblowing on one particular individual or if you're whistleblowing on a group of individuals. Once you have done that and it can be substantiated in regard towards the authenticity of it, you're not supposed to be punished for doing the right thing. And that's exactly what has occurred in my particular life. I have been punished for doing the right thing. Going back in the recentest event of trying to prevent children across the road from getting damaged or hurt or harmed because of their parents' behavior. And then I can go on towards the discoveries that I made up in Kentucky, up in Land Between the Lakes. Then I can go on towards the discoveries that I made out in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Then I can go on and talk about the discoveries that I made out in Waco, Texas. Then I can go on and talk about how that people here in Weakley County has tried to destroy my life going back in 2005. towards trying to say that I was some sort of a homegrown terrorist that was coming from the Martin Police Department right here in Weakley County, Tennessee. In addition to all the other stuff that has went on in my life in the past 4.5, going on 5 years since I've been back here. What has happened to our society? I'm going to tell you what's happened to it. It's become corrupt, wicked, evil.
Or nothing. Don't hold your breath on that one. But what about Chairman Richie Neal of the House Ways and Means Committee? I mean, he has also seen the whistleblower complaint. We know that because he notified the court about it. I mean, Chuck Grassley might choose to sit on this whistleblower complaint because maybe he doesn't want to know, but Chairman Neal could also issue a subpoena as well to get that testimony. We reached out to the House Ways and Means Committee for comment as to whether or not they're considering this. We haven't heard anything back, but I do have questions, including questions about whether or not this whistleblower, just like the other one, might be getting intimidated or being threatened here for doing what he or she is actually legally protected to do. I know just the person to ask about that. Hold that thought.
It's pretty crappy whenever a person is trying to do the right thing by exposing bad behavior or criminal behavior, and they get shunned, they get ostracized, demonized, dehumanized, the way that the founder of the Windmill Ministries has been treated. It goes beyond sad. The only consolation that I can share with others,
people say,
is to know that one day these people that have been embarked upon this type of behavior will give a full accountability to the man up above us one day towards the who, the why, the when, and the where, and they will be questioned and possibly punished, not so much of what they didn't do that they should have done, but what they did do that they didn't have no business in doing, or vice versa, towards what they stood idly by and didn't do that they should have done. Does that make any sense? I may not have explained that properly, but it can be just as consequential towards you being held accountable in one area just as easy as it is another. In other words, you don't have to be just an out and out hardcore criminal towards going out here robbing banks. Okay? Which that's good that you're not. But if you know of other people that are embarked in activities that fits under the same guideline as people that are robbing banks, and you don't have to be robbing banks, just getting out here just doing stuff that you ain't supposed to be doing, towards hoodooing and scamming and hurting people, and you not reporting it, by you not reporting it makes you just as guilty as the person that's doing it. That's the part around here that don't sink in with the so-called civilized society that I'm living around. They think out of sight, out of mind. As long as I didn't see it, didn't hear it, or if I act like I didn't see it or hear it, I'll be okay. No, you won't. No, you will not. You may think that you'll be okay in the eyes of the law here, but in the eyes of the law of God, because you've seen it and you didn't do nothing about it, you'll be held accountable for it.
I believe him.
Here we go.
U.S. Attorney from the great state of Michigan. Barb, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Oh, you bet, Rachel. Glad to be here with you.
So there's this whistleblower, apparently, who alleges there's been some sort of improper interference by a political appointee in the audit of President Trump or Vice President Pence's tax returns. Right? We learned that this summer. We've been waiting for the other shoe to drop on this for several months. But now it's being reported that this whistleblower has been told by some official that if he or she gives that information to the relevant committees in Congress, they could end up in jail. That could be an illegal thing to do. That strikes me as off. It strikes me as, I thought whistleblowers are supposed to be able to safely give things to Congress.
Yeah, in fact, there's a statute that covers the handling.
If it's authentic, it's got to be authentic. In other words, if a person, I'm just going to use this for a quick illustration, if a person gets out here and calls the authorities on their neighbor and says, hey, I seen that guy kill that person and they buried his body in behind their house, come and investigate. Once the authorities come out there and they dig up that man's backyard and there is no body, somebody's fixing to get in big, big trouble by misleading the authorities. It's got to be authentic in whatever that you're blowing the whistle for or towards.
And disclosure of tax return information. It's the same statute we've talked about before that investigators use. It's 26 U.S.C. 6103. Prosecutors use the I order for subparagraph I of that statute. But there's another provision within that same statute that talks about whistleblowers. That's part F, and it says that whistleblowers may go before Congress and may disclose taxpayer information if they're talking about misconduct, maladministration, or taxpayer abuse. And so as long as they're talking about those things, they are supposed to have protection and be able to share that information with Congress.
If some U.S. government official or congressional official has advised the whistleblower falsely and told this person that they're going to go to jail if they testify about these things, despite that clause in the code, isn't that itself a significant problem in terms of the way this is being handled?
Yes. Now, if there's some basis for it that we're just not aware of, perhaps it's sound advice. But if it is instead an effort to intimidate or prevent that person from sharing information that could be politically damaging to the administration, that would be obstruction of Congress, and that's a crime.
What about the prospect of a subpoena? The reporting that we had several days ago was that the whistleblower has decided not to do a voluntary interview with the Senate Finance Committee because of this basically implicit threat that to do so might be a crime. If the whistleblower was subpoenaed, either from that Senate committee or from Richie Neal in the Ways and Means Committee in the House, would that make a difference in terms of this potential threat or in terms of the whistleblower's protections?
I think it would give some comfort to the whistleblower that he has a legal basis. He's being compelled to testify. It's not voluntary. But it still creates a tension if there is some legal prohibition from sharing this information because it doesn't fit within that definition of what a whistleblower may bring forward. Then one of what I would advise him to do if I were his lawyer is to go to a court and have a court rule. It's a face-off. On the one hand, you're not supposed to disclose this information. On the other, you have a subpoena from Congress that compels you to testify. I'd go turn it over to a judge and get a ruling on whether I should come forward. Just a friendly ruling to sort of bless it.
In terms of the decisions that are being made by the chairman here, Richie Neal, Congressman Neal from the Ways and Means Committee is obviously involved in his own court fight to try to get access to the president's tax returns. He's legally entitled to do so, and that's caught up in the courts. Is there any reason, given that ongoing proceeding, that he might not want to subpoena the whistleblower because that might interfere in his legal prospects there?
I don't know. They've had an opportunity to talk to the whistleblower informally, and what they wanted to do was just get a transcript, a sworn statement from the whistleblower. So maybe there is something about what they know. So far, that litigation seems to be going well. They had a hearing in November where there was a motion to dismiss by the IRS, and the judge expressed skepticism. So perhaps it appears to the Ways and Means Committee that things are going on track, and they don't want to do anything to disrupt it at this point. But I'd love to hear what the whistleblower has to say. There is an audit process of the president's tax return. returns. And if there's an allegation that someone is improperly interfering with that process, boy, it sure adds to the mystery of what it is that President Trump is so keen to hide in his tax returns.
Exactly. Barbara McQuaid, former U.S. attorney. It's great to have you here tonight, Barb. Thanks.
And I want to weigh in also. It goes to show how that the Kenton Police Department handled me going to their police department, Don Curry, towards wanting help because I'd been attacked by my father with 64 staples that was holding two pieces of flesh together to prevent from my stomach opening up and spilling out my guts. How come I went to the proper authorities about a problem, and instead of the perpetrator being punished that created the problem by attacking his son, me being the victim, I'm the one that got punished. I'm the one that got punished by saying that I was the one that needed to go to a mental ward and be psychologically examined for an examination. What the hell is wrong with this country whenever people raise attention towards something that has occurred? I'm just talking in general about the things that has went on in my particular life, just like the deal with the children across the road. Just like with all these attacks that I can prove, I can validate, either on Facebook or YouTube. I've got proof of it. It's already went out to the general public. And the judicial system in this county did not handle the situation properly. They let it fester, and they let it go on and on and on. So whenever you bring stuff like this out to the general public, and there's nothing still being done about it, you have a tendency of scratching your head and thinking, this is a bigger thing than what I thought. I just thought it was amongst maybe 25 or 30 or 40 or 50 people. Come to find out, this is pertaining to maybe not 300 or 400 people, but maybe 3,000 or 4,000 people that was involved in this type of corruption, in this type of illegitimate behavior. It expands. It goes further than just a few. Once more, the whole primary concept in somebody going to the authorities after something has been obviously out of kilter pertaining to a crime being committed, and the person that's reporting the crime is the one that gets victimized again by the authorities punishing that person for bringing it to their attention, something is wrong with that picture here in America. Something is deathly wrong with that picture. Thanks again to my viewers. Can't say it enough. Good luck to all of us on December the 7th, 2019. Shalom.